Marcus Vallon adjusted his diplomatic credentials for the third time as the transport shuttle descended through Zirion's crimson atmosphere. The planet's twin moons cast an ethereal glow over sprawling cities that seemed to grow from the metallic landscape itself. As the Colonial Federation's youngest senior attach, this assignment was supposed to be his chance to prove himself in interstellar diplomacy. Standard mining rights negotiation, he muttered, reviewing his briefing notes. The Zarian Empire controlled some of the galaxy's richest deposits of quantum crystals, essential for faster-than-light travel. Humanity needed those resources, and the Zarians apparently needed something in return. Simple trade discussion. The shuttle touched down in what Marcus assumed was a government complex. Towering spires of black metal and crystal reached toward the purple sky, their surfaces crawling with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a planetary heartbeat. Definitely not like the sterile conference rooms he was used to back on New Geneva. A delegation waited on the landing platform. The Zirians were tall, elegant beings with pale blue skin and silver hair that seemed to move with its own life. Their formal robes shifted color in the strange light, and Marcus noticed they all wore ceremonial weapons, not exactly standard for trade talks. Ambassador Vallon, the lead figure, stepped forward. "I am Chancellor Vex Morath. Welcome to Zarian Prime." Marcus extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting, but the Chancellor's eyes widened. "You accept the ritual greeting? Excellent. The ceremony can proceed immediately." "Ceremony?" Marcus's hand froze mid-air. "I thought we were here for mining negotiations, indeed. The marriage treaty is quite generous regarding mineral extraction rights." The world seemed to tilt. Marriage treaty? Chancellor Morath smiled, revealing teeth like polished obsidian. "Did your government not brief you fully? The alliance between our peoples requires a symbolic union. You, as humanity's representative, will wed Princess Kira Soleth, heir to the Zarian throne. The ceremony has been prepared for months." Marcus felt his stomach drop through several dimensions. "There's been a mistake. I'm here about mining rights, not marriage rights. The documents were signed by your own colonial council." Morath produced a holographic display showing official Federation seals and signatures Marcus recognized. "The Union prevents the war that would otherwise be inevitable between our species." "War?" Marcus's voice cracked embarrassingly. "Nobody mentioned a war. Your expansion into the Outer Rim threatens 17 Zarian colonies. Marriage alliance or military action, those were the options presented by your leadership." Morath's smile never wavered. "They chose marriage. Wise, considering our fleets currently outnumber yours 3-1. The platform began moving, carrying Marcus and the delegation toward the palace complex. He fumbled for his communication device, trying to reach his superiors, but only static answered. Either the Zirians were jamming communications, or his own government had deliberately cut him off. "I demand to speak with my embassy," Marcus said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "After the ceremony," Morath replied smoothly. "Tradition demands the union be completed before any official business can be conducted. Don't worry, Ambassador. Princess Kira is quite beautiful, and she has killed fewer than a dozen suitors. You'll barely feel the neural bonding. Neural bonding, marriage, or prevention." Marcus's head spun as they entered the palace proper. The corridors were filled with beings he didn't recognize, delegates from across the galaxy, all apparently here to witness humanity's diplomatic sacrifice. He caught fragments of conversation in languages, both alien and familiar. They reached a vast ceremonial chamber where thousands of witnesses filled floating galleries that defied gravity. At the center, on a raised dais surrounded by swirling energy fields, waited a figure that made Marcus forget how to breathe. Princess Kira Soleth stood 7 feet tall, her warrior's frame encased in armor that seemed to be forged from starlight. itself. Her skin held an inner luminescence, and her hair cascaded in waves of liquid silver. But it was her eyes that stopped him, cold, ancient, intelligent, and burning with barely contained fury. She was magnificent. She was terrifying. And according to the Chancellor, she was about to become his wife. "Approach, human," her voice carried, across the chamber like controlled thunder. "Let us complete this farce and prevent your species' extinction." Marcus walked toward the dais on unsteady legs, his mind racing through options he didn't have. Behind him, he heard Chancellor Morith addressing the crowd, speaking of unity and peace and the binding of worlds through sacred ceremony. What he really heard was the sound of his quiet diplomatic career exploding into cosmic significance, one unwanted marriage at a time. Princess Kira Soleth had killed her first enemy at age 12. She had commanded fleets before her 20th birthday. She had never, in all her cycles of training and warfare, imagined she would be standing in the ceremonial hall watching a terrified human diplomat stumble toward what he clearly thought was his execution. The neural bonding crown felt heavy on her head as she studied Marcus Valen. He was smaller than she had expected. Most humans were, but something in his eyes suggested intelligence rather than the brutish ignorance her tutors had described. His dark hair was disheveled from the journey, and his formal diplomatic attire looked absurdly inadequate for a wedding that would reshape galactic politics. "You may speak your objections now," she said as he reached the dais, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "Before the bonding makes such protests impossible." Marcus looked up at her, and she saw something unexpected in his expression. Not just fear, but genuine concern. "Are you okay with this? I mean, did you choose this?" The question caught her off guard. In all her preparation for this moment, no one had asked what she wanted. "Choice is a luxury warriors cannot afford," she replied, but the words felt hollow even to her own ears. "That's not an answer." Chancellor Morith stepped forward, clearly eager to proceed. "Princess, the neural bonding must begin. A harmonic alignment of the moons will not last much longer." Kira held up one armored hand, and the Chancellor fell silent. Around them, the energy fields pulsed with increasing intensity, responding to the celestial mechanics above. She had perhaps 3 minutes before the ceremony would proceed regardless of her wishes. "You want honesty, human?" She leaned down, bringing her face closer to his. "I have spent my life preparing to rule through strength. My people respect power, not political marriages. This union makes me appear weak in their eyes. Then why agree to it? Because the alternative is watching your fleets burn and your colonies fall." Her eyes flashed with inner fire. "Your government pushed expansion too far, too fast. They triggered automatic defense protocols that would have meant total war within days." Marcus's face paled further. "They didn't tell me any of this." "Of course not. Easier to send a sacrificial diplomat than admit their failures." She straightened, towering over him again. "But perhaps they chose better than they knew." The neural crowns began resonating, filling the air with harmonics that made both their teeth ache. The bonding would create a mental link between them, not mind reading, but emotional resonance that would make deception impossible. Ancient Xerian technology designed to ensure royal marriages produced true partnerships rather than political conveniences. "Princess," Chancellor Morith urged, "we must proceed." Kira looked down at Marcus one more time. He wasn't running, wasn't begging, wasn't making the political protestations she had expected. Instead, he seemed to be genuinely trying to understand her position, to see her as more than just another obstacle to navigate. "If we do this," she said quietly, "the bond will change us both. You'll feel my thoughts, my emotions. I'll know your fears, your motivations. There will be no privacy between us." "Will it hurt?" Such a simple question, but it made her chest tight. The bonding itself? No. Living with the consequences? She paused. I don't know. The energy fields reached crescendo. Around them, witnesses from a dozen species leaned forward in anticipation. In the royal gallery, she could see her younger brother Dex watching with worry, while the military advisors who had pushed for war looked distinctly disappointed. Last chance to run, she told Marcus. He surprised her by almost smiling. Where exactly would I go? Your people have the whole planet surrounded. Through the service tunnels. I could arrange transport off-world. His eyebrows rose. You'd help me escape your own wedding? I'd help you avoid a fate you didn't choose. The admission came out before she could stop it. Marcus studied her face for a long moment. Then, incredibly, he stepped closer to the neural bonding apparatus. Maybe some fates are worth choosing, even when you don't get to pick them. The crowns activated, sending cascades of silver light between them. Kira felt the first tendrils of the bond reaching across the space between their minds. Fear, yes, but also curiosity and something that might have been admiration. From her, he would feel duty and loneliness, and a warrior's pride that had never found worthy challenge. As their minds touched for the first time, Kira realized that her new husband might be the most dangerous thing that had ever happened to her, not because he threatened her life, but because he threatened to make her hope for something more than duty and conquest. The wedding march began, and with it, the transformation of two civilizations bound together by the most unlikely of unions. Jackson Cross had been living as a Zarian cultural attach for 3 years, and in all that time, he had never seen the intelligence networks this active. From his position in the palace's communication hub, he watched data streams that weren't supposed to exist flowing between systems that should have been isolated. Someone was playing a very deep game. The wedding ceremony had concluded 6 hours ago, and already reports were flooding in from across both empires. Human colonies expressing outrage at the betrayal of their diplomat. Zarian military commanders questioning their princess's loyalty. Protests on 17 worlds. Stock markets crashing as mining corporations realized their expansion plans had just become infinitely more complicated. All according to someone's plan. Jackson pulled up the encrypted files he had been compiling for months. Transaction records, communication intercepts, shipping manifests that didn't quite add up. The pattern was subtle, but once you knew what to look for, it became obvious. Someone had been systematically escalating tensions between humans and Zarians while simultaneously preparing for exactly this outcome. His secure communication terminal chimed with an incoming message from his handler back on Earth. The encryption was military grade, supposedly unbreakable by alien technology. Raven, status report on Nightfall Protocol. Jackson's blood ran cold. Nightfall Protocol wasn't in any briefing he had received. As far as he knew, his mission was pure intelligence gathering. He typed a careful response. Clarify Nightfall. Number. Such protocol in my operational parameters. The reply came instantly. Marriage successful. Proceed to Phase 2. Neural disruption charges are in your quarters. Neural disruption charges. Devices designed to sever the mental bond between Zarian royal pairs, typically resulting in permanent brain damage or death for both parties. Someone wanted Marcus Vallon and Princess Kira dead, and they wanted Jackson to be the weapon. He stared at the message until the words burned themselves into his retinas. His own government or someone claiming to represent it had planned this from the beginning. The marriage wasn't meant to prevent war. It was meant to provide justification for it. 2 dead diplomats, 1 human and 1 Zarian, would give both sides all the excuse they needed for total conflict. Jackson began typing rapidly, accessing deeper levels of the communication network than his cover identity should have allowed. His real training not as a cultural attach, but as a deep cover operative finally proved its worth. Layer by layer, he peeled back the digital deceptions until he found the source. The transmission wasn't coming from Earth. It was originating from a ship in the outer system, using hijacked Colonial Federation communication codes. Someone was impersonating his handlers, and they had been doing it for months. Every order he had received, every piece of intelligence he had gathered, had been filtered through this unknown third party. A new message appeared. Raven, confirm receipt of elimination orders. Jackson's fingers hesitated over the keyboard. If he confirmed, he would be expected to carry out an assassination that would plunge two civilizations into war. If he refused, he would blow his cover and likely end up dead himself. But there was a third option, one that his training had prepared him for, but hoped he would never need to use. He began composing a message to Princess Kira's personal guard frequency, using protocols he had memorized, but never expected to activate. Emergency revelation of foreign agent, requesting immediate audience with royal command. Authentication codes followed, proving his identity as a human intelligence operative. Within minutes, armed guards were escorting him through corridors. He had walked freely for years toward a meeting that would either save two civilizations or destroy any chance of his survival. The conference room held only 3 people. Princess Kira, still in her ceremonial armor, but looking exhausted. Marcus Vallon, who appeared to be suffering from neural bond adjustment syndrome. And General Thyron Blackstone, head of Xerian military intelligence. "You claim to be a human spy," General Blackstone said without preamble. "Prove it." Jackson placed his communication device on the table and activated its full recording capabilities. "My name is Jackson Cross, Colonial Intelligence Division, Deep Cover Operative Designation Raven. I have been gathering intelligence on Xerian military capabilities for 36 months. 6 hours ago, I received orders to assassinate both of you using neural disruption technology." Princess Kira's eyes narrowed. "From your own government?" "That's what I thought. But the transmission source analysis shows the orders are coming from an unidentified vessel using stolen communication codes." He activated his display, showing the data trails he had uncovered. "Someone has been manipulating both our governments, escalating tensions while positioning themselves to profit from the result in war." Marcus leaned forward, his diplomatic training evident despite his obvious discomfort. "Profit how?" "Arms sales, territorial claims, resource extraction rights in the aftermath," Jackson replied. "Classic third-party manipulation. But this is sophisticated. They've been planning this for years." General Blackstone studied the data streams. "These shipping routes, I recognize them. Someone has been moving military hardware through neutral space, building something in the void between our territories." "A fleet," Kira said quietly. "Hidden until both our civilizations exhaust themselves fighting each other." Jackson nodded grimly. "Your marriage wasn't supposed to prevent war. It was supposed to provide the perfect excuse for starting one." Zen Koreth had been fighting the Xerion establishment for 8 years, ever since they had classified his homeworld as a strategic sacrifice during border conflicts with the Centauri Collective. He had watched his people relocated to mining colonies while their ancestral lands were turned into military bases. The royal family, he had long believed, cared nothing for anyone beyond the inner worlds, which made it particularly frustrating that he was currently sneaking through Palace ventilation systems to save that sane royal family. The intelligence the human spy had revealed changed everything. If Princess Kira and her new husband were killed, the resulting war would devastate not just the major powers, but every frontier world caught between them. Zen's people, already refugees, would be completely destroyed. His wrist communicator crackled with coded transmissions from his cell. "Shadow Leader, Palace security is mobilizing. Unknown hostiles moving toward the royal quarters." Zen checked his chronometer. The neural disruption charges would be activated soon if Jackson crosses. Intelligence was accurate. The spy had provided schematics showing 3 possible entry points to the royal wing. But palace security was already responding to something. Either the assassins were already in position, or Cross had been discovered. He dropped through a maintenance. Hatching to a service corridor, his modified Zerion military armor making barely a whisper of sound. Years of guerrilla warfare had taught him to move like a ghost through the very systems he had once helped design as a young engineering recruit. The first body confirmed his worst fears. Palace guard, throat cut with professional precision. The kill was recent, perhaps 5 minutes. Zen activated his tactical display and began tracking movement patterns through the security sensors he had long ago learned to hack. 3 figures moving toward the royal quarters using routes that bypassed most surveillance. Professional soldiers, but not Zerion military. Their movement signatures were wrong, too rigid, too human. His communicator whispered, "Shadow Leader, we have visual on the primary targets. Princess Kira and the human diplomat are still in the bonding recovery chamber. Neuralink is active. They're vulnerable." Zen's jaw tightened. The neural bonding process left both parties in a heightened state of mental connection, but physically weakened for several hours. Perfect timing for an assassination that would look like the bond had failed naturally. All units converge on Royal Wing. Authorization code Starfall, he transmitted. We protect the monarchy today, not because we serve them, but because we serve our people. The irony wasn't lost on him. His resistance cell, dedicated to opposing royal authority, was now the Crown's last line of defense against a threat none of them had seen coming. Zen reached the royal quarters' outer perimeter as the first explosions echoed through the palace. The assassins weren't being subtle anymore. They were making their play before security could lock down the area completely. He slipped through a blast door as it began cycling shut, rolling into a corridor filled with emergency lighting and the acrid smell of plasma burns. Princess Kira appeared around the corner, moving with the fluid grace that made her legendary in combat. But Zen could see the slight tremor in her hands that indicated neural bond adjustment. Behind her, the human diplomat Marcus kept pace despite obviously struggling with alien physiology integration. "Your Highness," Zen called out, knowing his voice would be recorded by every security system in the area. "Zen Kareth, Outer Rim Resistance. You need to move, now." Kira's energy blade was in her hand before he finished speaking, but her eyes showed recognition rather than hostility. "The radical who's been stealing military supplies and embarrassing my generals for years. The same. And right now, I'm the one trying to keep you alive." He gestured toward the sounds of combat echoing from deeper in the palace. 3 human assassins, military training, neural disruption technology. They're here to break your bond and start a war. Marcus stepped forward, and Zen was surprised to see intelligence rather than fear in the diplomat's eyes. "How do we know? You're not one of them?" "Because if I wanted you dead, Your Majesty, you'd already be dead." Zen activated his tactical display, showing the palace layout and hostile movement patterns. "I've spent years mapping every inch of this complex. I know 17 ways out of here that your security forces don't even know exist." An explosion much closer than the others shook the corridor. Emergency systems began cycling the area into lockdown mode. "Princess," Zen pressed, "I know you have no reason to trust me. My people and I have fought your rule for years, but this isn't about politics anymore. It's about survival for all of us." Kira looked at Marcus, and something passed between them, the neural bond allowing communication Zen couldn't intercept. After a moment, she nodded. "Lead the way, rebel. But if this is a trap, then you'll kill me very efficiently, Zen." "Finished. I'm counting on it." He led them through passages that had never appeared on any official blueprint, routes he had discovered during years of planning operations that would never now come to pass. Behind them, the sounds of battle grew. Closer. Ahead, his resistance fighters were positioning themselves to provide cover for an escape he had never thought he would be orchestrating. As they moved through the shadows beneath the palace, Zen reflected on the strange turns of fate that had made him protector of the very system he had sworn to destroy. Sometimes, he realized, you had to save your enemies to preserve any hope of defeating them properly later. The revolution would have to wait. First, they had a war to prevent. Emperor Thane Voss materialized in the command center of his stealth dreadnought as reports of the failed assassination flooded in. For 15 years, he had existed as a ghost, officially dead, secretly building the fleet that would restore him to power. The neural bonding between Princess Kira and the human diplomat should have been severed by now, their deaths providing the catalyst for total war between their species. Instead, they were very much alive and apparently being protected by the same resistance fighters who had helped overthrow him years ago. "Sir?" Captain Nexvalder approached cautiously. The scarred veteran had served under 3 different flags before joining Voss's shadow fleet. "The palace assault has failed. Our assets are compromised." "Expected," Voss replied, studying the holographic display that showed the positions of human and Zarian fleets across 17 star systems. Phase 1 was always expendable. Initiate. Phase 2. The communication array activated, broadcasting on frequencies both empires would be monitoring. Voss's image holder now, bearing the silver scars of exile, but still unmistakably imperial, appeared on screens across 2 civilizations. People of Zarian, citizens of humanity. His voice carried the authority of decades ruling the galaxies. Most powerful empire. I am Thane Voss, rightful emperor of Zarian, speaking to you from exile to reveal the deception that threatens us all. In the palace on Zarian Prime, Zen Korath's tactical display exploded with priority alerts. Princess Kira and Marcus, now safely hidden in one of his resistance bunkers, watched the broadcast with growing horror. The marriage you have witnessed is a fraud, Voss continued. Princess Kira has been manipulated by human agents. Her mind, clouded by alien neural bonding that corrupts the purity of Zarian bloodlines. As the last legitimate ruler of our people, I cannot allow this contamination to continue. Marcus grabbed Kira's hand, their neural bond letting him feel her rage building like a solar storm. He's trying to frame us for his own conspiracy. Clever, she admitted grimly. Make himself the rightful authority opposing an alien invasion. Classic political theater. Voss's broadcast continued. Even now, human fleets move to occupy Zarian worlds under the pretense of alliance. Their diplomat has infiltrated our royal house, stolen our most sacred bonding rituals, and prepared the way for total subjugation. Jackson Cross, monitoring communications from the intelligence center he had helped establish, watched in real time as both human and Zarian military commanders began responding to the broadcast. Emergency protocols activated. Fleet movements that had been routine suddenly looked suspicious. Political leaders who had grudgingly accepted the marriage now questioned everything. Brilliant bastard, Jackson muttered. He's reframing the entire narrative. General Blackstone appeared on Zen's secure channel. The Outer Rim fleets are mobilizing. Half the provincial governors are declaring loyalty to Voss. We have maybe 6 hours before this becomes shooting war. In his bunker, Zen looked at the unlikely alliance he had helped create: a human spy, a resistance fighter, a diplomat, and a princess. Your Highness, with respect, your marriage bought us time, but didn't solve the real problem. Voss has spent years building something out there. We need to know what. Kira stood, her armor systems activating with a hum of barely contained energy. Then we go find out. The neural bond should let us access Imperial command codes that died with my mother. If Voss is using old fleet protocols, we can track him. That's assuming he's not expecting exactly that, Marcus said. His diplomatic training was finally proving useful. He could see the layers of deception Voss was weaving. This whole broadcast could be designed to draw us out. Probably, Kira agreed. But the alternative is watching two civilizations destroy each other while he claims the wreckage. Zen activated his resistance network's hidden assets ships that had been stolen, borrowed, or built in secret over years of guerrilla warfare. My people can get you to Voss's fleet. We've been tracking shadow movements in the void for months. Why help us? Marcus asked. You've fought the royal family for years. Because Voss won't just restore the old empire, Zen replied. He'll create something worse. The outer rim worlds will become slave states. My people will be completely erased. Jackson's voice crackled through the communication system. I'm picking up massive energy signatures from the Shadow Fleet. Whatever Voss built out there, it's bigger than anything in either empire's inventory. 2 hours later, they stood on the bridge of a captured Zirion light cruiser, watching long-range sensors track the largest military construction project in galactic history. Voss hadn't just built a fleet, he had built a mobile fortress that could crack planets. The Dominion engine, Kira breathed, recognizing ancient weapons schematics from Imperial archives. My ancestors abandoned that project as too dangerous. Apparently your uncle disagreed, Marcus said grimly. Through their neural bond, Kira felt his fear mix with determination. Across the bridge, Zen prepared weapon systems that had never been designed to face something of this magnitude. Jackson coordinated with both human and Zirian intelligence networks, trying to buy them time before the larger fleets could engage. And in the void ahead, Emperor Thane Voss waited with a weapon that could rewrite the balance of power across the Zhang. Entire galaxy, the marriage that was supposed to prevent war, had instead revealed something far worse. And now 4 unlikely allies had to stop it before 2 civilizations learned too late that some emperors were willing to burn everything to reclaim their thrones.